Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel.
Whenever we conduct experiment in a laboratory, we must remember that the first rule is not to play inside the laboratory because it's not a playground. If you play in the laboratory, there's a tendency that you will break something or you can even hurt yourself, and that is not good. Now, during laboratory experiment, we must always remember to wear our lab coat. In other schools, they have laboratory gown. A laboratory gown has a longer sleeves and usually it's white. In our school, we call it the lab coat. The lab coat will protect us from chemical spill or any harmful substances that can damage our clothes or our body. Therefore, each time we will be having an experiment, we must wear the lab coat. Next, in order to protect our eyes whenever we conduct experiment, we must wear goggles so that our eyes will be protected. If anything happens, an accident, or if you break something accidentally, the first thing you must do is to report it to your teacher. So the teacher can tell you what is the best thing to do. Do not immediately hold the object that is broken. You might harm yourself. You might have a cut. Or if there is a chemical spill, you might burn your skin. Therefore, report it to your teacher. The teacher will tell you what to do. Okay? Good job. Let us now study the different laboratory tools. First, we have the heating setup. When we try to heat substances, we must have the following. This is what we call a tripod. And this is what we call an iron stand and an iron ring. These two can be used in heating substances. If we need high or great amount of heat, we will use the Bunsen burner. This Bunsen burner is attached to a rubber hose, and the rubber hose is attached to the gas outlet so that a great amount of heat from the LPG will be used. Next, to protect the materials that we will be heating from direct heat, we must have the wire gauze. This wire gauze will protect the materials we are heating. If we will be using the Bunsen burner for great amount of heat and the wire gauze to protect the materials we'll be heating, we can use the alcohol lamp with an ethyl alcohol inside if we only need a little amount of heat. So if we need a little amount of heat, we can use the alcohol lamp. If we need a great amount of heat, we use the Bunsen burner. To protect the materials from direct heat, we use the wire gauze. When we want to heat substances, there are some materials that can be used. First, we can use the evaporating dish. Evaporating dish. From the term itself, it is used to make liquid evaporate with the use of heat. We can use and pour substances in it. Let the liquid evaporates, boil and evaporates, leaving the solid particles behind. Evaporating dish. Another one that you can use would be the beaker. It can be used for heating substances. Another one is the Erlenmeyer flask. It can also be used to heat substances. The last one is the Florence flask. Observe that a Florence flask has a rounded body. Okay, Florence flask can also be used to heat substances. And lastly, we can also use a test tube to heat substances or for chemical reaction. You can use this and directly heat it. But are you going to hold it with your hand? Of course not. You're gonna burn your finger. Therefore, you must use a test tube holder. Use the test tube holder to hold the test tube and put it directly on the flame. Remember to make sure that the mouth of the test tube is not facing you so that your face will be prevented from being burned or any chemical reaction and maintain your beautiful face. If it is already hot, make sure to put the test tube to the test tube rack. Again, this is called a test tube rack to hold the test tubes in place. If we want to measure the volume or the amount of liquid we want to boil, we want to heat, or we want to experiment on, we can use the following. Again, if we want to measure the volume of liquid, we can use the following materials. We can use the beaker. The beaker has different graduations like this one. We can also use the Erlenmeyer flask. And we can use the graduated cylinder. If I will ask you, which of these three will be the best one to use in order to measure volume of a liquid, if all of them can be used? It's the graduated cylinder. Can you tell me why? Very good. Graduated cylinder has many graduations or measurements which can help you determine the accurate, the exact amount of liquid. These three, beaker, Erlenmeyer flask, and Florence, is used for heating substances. These two can also be used to measure the volume. And these three can also be used to observe chemical reaction. If I want to transfer the liquid from one container to another container without spilling, what will I use? You are correct. I will use the funnel. Again, this is a funnel. We will be using a glass funnel because a glass is prevented from any chemical reaction. If we will use plastic or rubber, there could be chemical reactions that will happen eventually. So if I want to transfer a liquid from one container to another, especially if the other container has a small opening, you use a funnel so that the liquid will not spill. Okay. Now, I have here a watch glass. Again, this is called a watch glass. From the term itself, watch glass. You will watch, you will observe. This is used to observe any chemical reaction, to observe mixing. You can use the spatula. Spatula is like a spoon. It is used to scoop solid materials from one container to another container. You can use it also to mix. You can use the flat part also to separate or to move the substances. This is porcelain, again, to avoid chemical reaction. The watch glass is used to observe chemical reactions. Another one, this is called a Petri dish. Petri dish is actually used for observing tissue culture or other chemical reactions, simple chemical observations and reactions. Next, if I want to heat metal strips or chemicals that requires great amount of heat, I will be using crucible. Again, crucible. C-R-U-C-I-B-L-E. Crucible. And cover. Teacher, why do you have to put the cover? Because in melting metals and other substances, it will release fume. So, to cover it, meaning to protect the fume from going out, as well as making sure that the heat is trapped inside, you use a cover. Now, if this is already hot, what are you going to use to remove the crucible from the heating setup? You will use a crucible tongue. This is called a crucible tongue. It has an elongated part to remove the cover gently, and it has a wide middle part to grasp the crucible and put it on top of the table. You are not supposed to touch it if it is very, very hot. To remove the cover, you use the elongated part, okay? So that you will not be burnt. If you want to stir something, you use the stirring rod. This is a glass stirring rod used to stir chemical substances. Again, it's glass to prevent chemical reaction. Teacher, I want to see a small object, but I cannot see it clearly. What will I use? You can use the magnifying glass. A magnifying glass can magnify. It can enlarge things that you want to observe. Again, a magnifying glass. If you want to see organisms, objects that are so small that they cannot be seen by the naked eye, what will you use?
Microscope.
Very good. Good answer. You use the microscope. If you use the low power objective, the low power objective has 40x, meaning you can see 40 times its size. If it is 40 times its size and the eyepiece is 10 times 40, you can see the bacteria 400 times its size. Whoa, the bacteria is so big. This part is the stage where you will place the specimen. The specimen is usually placed in a glass slide with a cover slip. You place it on top of the stage and clip it so that it will not move. And then you will have the mirror. Mirror is very important in a microscope because it will reflect and make the light goes to the lenses and to the eyepiece so you can see the specimen. Without the mirror, you cannot get or reflect the light. Therefore, both the light, the mirror, they are important for you to see the specimen. Again, this is the microscope used to see objects that are so small that they cannot be seen by the naked eye.
If you like this video, like and subscribe. And do not forget to click the notification bell. Thank you.